All right, guys, I have some very exciting news for you. Today, I actually have a previous syndicate member on my channel with me, and he let me know through email just the other day that his recent royalty check exceeded 10 grand, which was actually a huge jump up from what his normal rate used to be. He told me about how he's been struggling to try to break over about the 2K range on his royalty checks, and this last one just skyrocketed and went to the moon. So needless to say, I love getting emails like that. If any of you guys that follow me get stories like that or see some massive improvements in your royalty check, please always email me, because it honestly is my big reward for doing all the stuff that I do here with my channel, with Sync Academy, with Sync Edge and the Syndicate, everything that I do. That's it. Like, getting those stories from you guys and really just hearing that this stuff actually is working for you and you're seeing the results in your careers, it means everything to me. So please don't be shy. Always reach out. But Gus, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? For those of you that don't know Gus, actually, and maybe if you're new to my channel, Gus and I did an interview actually 2 years ago in June of 2017, and I'll link that description in the description box below so you guys can watch and see where he was at a couple years back. And in that video, he actually details a lot of the mistakes that he had made early in his career. We actually both made some of the same mistakes in that we didn't really know what we were doing. We weren't making very licensable music, and we certainly didn't have any sort of strategy in terms of who should we partner with? Why should we partner with certain companies? Because Gus and I both had this sort of strategy in the beginning, which was just get your music out into as many different libraries as you possibly can. And we found out that that was really not a smart move. And I know a lot of producers who are impatient want to just do that, thinking that's the path to getting more distribution and more royalties. It usually doesn't work out, though, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in this interview. But Gus, go ahead and introduce yourself, man. Let us know about your awesome news that you just found out about.
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, I've been writing production music since 2008, and I just started writing like one song a month. It was nothing, and I was still writing music in the form of radio songs, nothing in the style of production. But like around 2010, I got two songs that were placed on American Pickers and Pawn Stars, the shows. And they wound up in like about 12, 14 different episodes. So that got me started to like, okay, I got to write more music. And the mistake that I made at that time is that I didn't take those songs and listen to them to see why they were successful at that point. I just kept writing and kept writing. And I think it wasn't until I actually joined the syndicate with you when you first started it, that first year, that I realized about, hit points and transitions and things like that. And I realized that I really had to get on the ball with writing a lot more music. And so I started writing, made a schedule for myself of writing music Monday through Thursdays, 3 to 4 hours a day, 3 to 4 songs a week, and really paying attention to the libraries that I was working with. And long story short, right now I'm working with 2 libraries on a regular basis, which get me most of all my placements. And I do have a couple of that I work sporadically two or three times a year. But like as you mentioned, I was making I started making like about $200, $500 royalty checks, and that was great. When I first started getting that, I got over $1,000 one time, and I was like over the moon. I said, "Wow, that's great." Obviously, not enough money to make a living on, but it was great to just get that type of money. And for the longest time, I was just stuck like about between $1,500 and $1,900. I couldn't get past that $1,200 threshold. And that lasted for about 3 to 4 years. And I got to the point that I was thinking, well, maybe making a living on this is not what's meant for me. And I did stop writing and working for like about a month or two. And then I realized, it's like, well, what's the alternative? Coming home from work, sitting on the couch and watching Netflix till 11 o'clock at night. I enjoyed writing music. So I got back into it, and got into a schedule. And this last June, I got BMI royalty for $2,800. And I was super happy because I finally broke through that $2,000 barrier. And that was great. My wife and I went on a vacation. And now this last September, BMI check comes in, $10,800. I was totally blown away. I usually get my money on Thursdays. BMI doesn't send out their statements until Friday. So I had to wait like a whole day to find out, okay, what happened here? that I was able to get, such a huge increase. And when that statement finally came in, I noticed it. There was a song that I wrote a year and a half ago to one of those two libraries, and it was placed on multiple networks with during the NFL playoffs and the NBA playoffs, and also on the Super Bowl. So that's where most of that money came from. But I got home after I, got out of work. I took that song. I looked it up in my storage drive that I had put away a year ago. I pulled it out, put it on my desktop, and I sits there on my desktop so that anytime that I'm going to start writing and I don't know what I'm going to write about, that's the song that I'm going to look at to see, okay, what happened? Why is that song? Why did it work? And, I'm just very thankful that I've gotten to this point.
That's awesome, man. That's so great to hear. And I love, like I said, hearing these stories and seeing the hard work pay off because, as you said yourself, this was not an overnight success story. I think some people hear stories like this. I hear about a large royalty check that comes in and they see the one-time event and think, oh, okay, great. I just got to put in a couple of weeks or a month's work and I'll have my big break and success. And no, it took a long time for you to get to that point. And I want everybody to just understand that that is going to be in your path as well. Every time Gus got one of those royalty checks and had to do some soul searching and second guessing his career path and deciding, is this really something I can do? Is this really going to turn into full-time income? Is this something that I'm going to go forward with? And he described something that I felt as well when I got those disappointing royalty checks in my career, early on in my career. It was this sense of, well, I've already put in a couple of years of work into this. I can bail on it. I can just say, you know what, the money's just not what I thought it was going to be. I'm just not going to be growing as much as I want to, and maybe I just need to do something else. And then just like Gus, I looked at all my other options and I thought, well, getting a job is just something that I just never want to have. I made a commitment to myself when I left that really terrible startup company in 2008, 2009. I never wanted to go back to that place again, and I was just looking around going like, well, what else can I do? There's really nothing else I want to do more than this. I just want to make music. It's still my passion. It's still my love. Yes, it's kind of kicking me in the gut right now, and it's sort of making me doubt this path in front of me. But there was this element, and maybe Gus, you can talk about it as well, some things you did to get through these times. But I remember getting these royalty checks, same with you, not breaking through barriers that I wanted to break through, and then deciding, all right, well, I made a video about this where you make these split decisions. You've got a fork in the road, okay? Get off the track, go do something else, double down, put your head down, try not to let that discourage you too much. Put your head down and work harder and just double down on your efforts. It's just one of these weird things that I don't know what that X factor is. I think a lot of it has to do with getting rid of any other options you possibly have. Because if you have a nice, lucrative B plan, and it's something that you kind of enjoy, and then you see these results, you probably will go in that direction, because why wouldn't you, right? But if music is your lifeblood and it's what gets you out of bed in the morning, and like Gus says, you don't want to just sit on the couch watching Netflix, playing video games. It's what keeps you productive and motivated and energized and gets you out of like depressive funks and just makes you feel alive. It is going to be your only option. It's going to be the only thing you can do to move forward. And those of us that are hopelessly addicted to making music, we're like sharks swimming through the ocean. If a shark stops swimming, it's dead. So for us, creating music is our swimming through the ocean. We have to keep doing it in order to keep ourselves alive, to keep ourselves motivated and energized to go through life. So I think in many ways, it is one of those things you have to just decide that it's this or nothing. Like failure is not the option. Bailing on this is not an option. You have to continuously double down, and of course, make sure you learn lessons. I want to talk to you, Gus, about that. Some lessons maybe you learned as you were struggling through those points of not breaking through those thresholds. What were some changes you made in your approach? I know we talked earlier in our last interview about how you were working with multiple libraries, tons and tons of non-exclusive libraries. That wasn't getting you the results. And now you've whittled it down all the way to just 2 libraries to get you this result. And I've told you guys many times, you guys have watched my videos, that 2 to 3 libraries should be all it takes. That's all it took for me. That's all it's taken for Gus. You don't need to have 10 libraries in your back pocket to be able to make this kind of income. Having the right libraries that you are intimately involved with and interacting with, and I know Gus is talking to his libraries on a weekly basis, knowing what their needs are, continuously serving their needs. What were some of those lessons that you think, or I guess changes in your approach that you made going from not breaking the threshold to where you are now? Can you think of anything substantial that might make a difference?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I started, I was working with 23 libraries, not really working with it. I was submitting to 23 libraries. Most of those libraries are gone. They're not even in business anymore. Uh, Out of those 23 libraries, only one is the one that I'm still working with on a monthly basis. And they started off as non-exclusive. Now they're exclusive. And, I was grandfathered in because I started early with them. The second library was one that I actually found out through your service that I hooked up with. And it was great because they saw where my strengths were as far as the type of music that I wrote. And they kept sending me emails, hey, we need this type of music. And they would send me the references, and everything was like guitar based, heavy electric, which is what my strength is. And once I started working with them, and they started getting me placements, like a lot of sports placements. And I realized, okay, this is where I need to go. And every 3 weeks or so, they just send me an email. Hey, we're looking for this. We're looking for that. And they don't send me something that they know that I'm not good at. Like something like EDM. I'm not as strong as with that I am with like rock. And so that helped me a lot. But again, I only work with two exclusive libraries on a regular basis, and maybe two or three other non-exclusives that send me that I've known for years, and they send me stuff maybe 3 times a year. And they do get me placements. But like I said, I started with 23 libraries, and they're all gone. None of them got me any placements at all.
Yeah, and it's just having those intimate, small relationships. And people don't think about the licensing business as a people business, but it absolutely is. These are real people working at the library. So they have families, they have a heart rate, they have a pulse, they have a personality, and people usually like to work with hardworking, very hungry, and just very humble producers that come to the table, demanding things, expecting things, feeling like things are owed to them. Usually they get pushed out of the way because there's too many talented, hardworking producers out there that have the right attitude and the right mindset. And I know Gus obviously has that element to him as well, that he's just a hard worker. He puts his head down. He just gets the work done. He delivers when he says he does. He over delivers. He delivers on time. These are just, customer service things, guys. This is all basic business 101 stuff. If you want to provide a valuable service to your clients, and this is a service industry, well, what kind of service do you like to get when you go hire a contractor to do something for you, or if you just go to a restaurant? What kind of service, what kind of those little tiny things that really add up in the end? It's the same thing in sync licensing. I think some people, I know that I remember thinking that before I got really heavily entrenched in this business. You think of the music business as this mystical place, like it's just like, this place from I don't know, it doesn't seem real. It just seems like it's just a strange, like ethereal thing that you can't really put your hand on. It's strange. How does this all work? Is it just all people doing back alley deals and handshakes, and what's really going on here? And when you get into it, and Gus can definitely attest to this, it's just straight up service. Like, you are just a service provider, right? No different
Right.
than if you're going to somebody's house to mow their lawn, or you're going to wash somebody's car, or do their taxes, or whatever it is. Our service here is to provide licensable music for high quality libraries that can get our tracks out there and shop our music for us. A lot of producers want to go directly to music supervisors, ad agencies, production companies, or even directors of films and movies, that kind of thing. The reason why that usually doesn't work out, though, is because you have to spend so much time going out there and schmoozing and networking and talking to them and all this kind of stuff, which leaves less and less time for you to actually just do what you really want to do, which is just making music. I can definitely speak for myself. The reason why I didn't want to get into becoming a library or going directly into, pitching and getting into sales mode is because I don't like to do those things. I really just like to make music, and I imagine, Gus, that's just your love as well, man.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
how do you feel now? I mean, now that you have this nice big win in your back pocket, are you excited? Are you nervous that the next one will be a little lower? Like, where are you at emotionally right now?
Well, you and I know this business is very unpredictable. There's been times in the past where I made one paycheck, one check from the royalties that would be like $1,900, $1,500, and then the next uh, distribution it would be like $700. So it doesn't, it's not a stable thing. I'm, keeping faith that it's going to continue to grow. Giving myself about a year. I still have a daytime job to see how it goes, and hopefully, if it continues to go this route, maybe I'll be able to just do this full time. Luckily, I have a job that's nice. I kind of enjoy going day gig, and I have enough times to still continue to do my music in the afternoon. So just gonna see how it goes, for the next year. One of the things that you got to have in this business is patience. You got to be consistent, but you got to have patience, and you got to have be content with what you're getting, so that you don't go crazy and start saying, "Oh wow, I'm never gonna get there," or "I'm not gonna be able to make a living out of this." You got to have patience. You got to have patience. Be content with what you're getting, because at the end of the day, you're still getting paid something for what you love doing.
That's absolutely true, man. And that is sort of my mantra here on this channel, which is consistency, long-term mindset, sticking with it for the long run. I know that's daunting and intimidating for many producers, but if you are the type that can make a choice, make a commitment, make the goal, and stick with it, you should be encouraged. That's actually great news for you, because the harder it is to get into any particular industry to really succeed, the more it's going to weed out all the flakes. It's going to weed out all the people that can't stick with something more than a couple of months. It's going to weed out all the people that expect a paycheck immediately. So I know sometimes it's, we all as human beings want everything for nothing. Like, that's just the human condition. We want a lot of stuff without putting a lot of effort into it. So can't get around that sort of temptation. But the way that I see it is that the harder or the more obstacles and the more difficult it is to get into a particular industry to really succeed, as long as you have that ability to persist with it, you don't have to be, and I'll tell you guys right now, Gus can probably agree with this, you don't have to be the most talented producer. You don't have to be the most gifted, have the most amazing ears for your mixing and mastering skills. You don't have to be the best at everything to be a rock star in this business. You do have to have that persistence, keep working at it. And then of course, on top of that, you learn from your mistakes, right? You change things. If things are not working, don't keep beating your head against the wall wondering why it's not working. If you need to change up your game in terms of your producing skills, mixing skills, mastering skills, business skills, just communicating better with your libraries, getting more into their inner circles, making a reminder on your phone, email your library once a week. Even if you have really nothing to say, ask them how they're doing, talk about what's going on in your career, ask them how their library is doing, give them a complimentary email about how you notice some new music they put up and you love the new music. Communication, guys, this is what it's all about, is putting yourself in a situation where you become indispensable. You become somebody that people want to be around, they want to work with, they want to offer you opportunities. But these are the kind of skills that a lot of people just don't have innately, so they have to develop them. And a lot of people, as I've seen just, in my educational programs here in the last 3 years, a lot of people don't have that long-term thing. Whatever that is, they wanted it within 6 months, they didn't get it, so bye-bye, they're gone. So, I'm sad, I'm bummed to see those kind of stories, but that's really great news for those of you that don't burn out in 6 months. You can get to the end goal there, where you become the inner circle member who are doing these great things. And again, just as Gus's story will prove to you, couple of libraries, guys, that's it. So I always talk about this, that if you submitted to 20 different libraries and only 2 said yes, well, what is that, a 10% success rate? That's, 90% failure. But 2 libraries, if they're the right libraries, can get you to this point. So you can fail 90% of the time and still succeed in this business. So guys, you just keep it in perspective that way, okay? So there are, at least in my library directory, there are over 300 companies, so there's a lot of people out there. They're not all exclusive, some of them are non-exclusive, so some of them are going to be a little bit more powerful than others. But even of those 300 libraries, there are at least 150 out there that are definitely going to be able to do this kind of stuff for you guys. So just keep swinging, guys. Just keep at it, and hopefully this kind of an interview and this kind of a story can let you see the other end of the tunnel, that there is hope for you down the road as long as you stick with it and keep going. So thank you so much, Gus, for your time today, man. Thanks for sharing your story.
Great talking to you again.